Welcome to the Starter Girls Podcast, the show dedicated to the Starter Girl. She's an achiever, she's a creator, she's a magic maker, she's a dreamer, and she is doing all the things. I'm your host, Jennifer Loading, and welcome to this episode. All right, so I'm super excited to welcome my guest on the show today. So here we are, another episode of the Starter Girls Podcast, and I've got Amber Wyrock on here today. I'm so excited to chat with her. She is the owner of Socially Inspired, a social management and digital marketing agency. She's also the host of the Inspired Biz podcast. She and her team offer done-for-you marketing services to entrepreneurs and small business owners. Amber's also a VA and an SMM coach and helps emerging and developing VAs build businesses, not just create jobs for themselves. She says she started her podcast, The Inspired Biz, in 2021 to bring value to the online space for those starting or growing their virtual business. She shares practical tips and resources while addressing mindset and business philosophy, and she loves sharing inspiring stories with her audience as well, which is always fun. We love inspiring stories, right?
Yes.
So welcome to the show, Amber. I am so excited to have you here today.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you.
This will be so much fun. So I kind of said all these cool things you did. So real quick before we get into I want to talk about some really good stuff with you today, but I just want you to tell us a little bit more what you do and kind of how that just sort of came about for you.
Yeah. So I actually started my business at the beginning of 2021. So before that, my background is in counseling and ministry, and I was working in a full-time role. As many people probably experienced, COVID hit and caused a time of reevaluation and kind of determining, okay, what comes next. And for me, it was a really pivotal moment. It was a time for me to say, I want to be more present. I want to be building something for myself. And I just want to take a different direction. And so at the beginning of 2021, I started my business. In March of 2021, I left my full-time role and went full on into this, which, so I had a lot of people think I was really crazy. And, I started out in more of the general VA space where I called myself the yes girl. Like, you want me to do that? Yes, I can do that. You want me to help you with this? Yes, I can do that. Even if it was not my forte, it was yes. And obviously, I very quickly learned that is not necessarily the way to build a business. And then I really started leaning into the social media and more of the digital marketing. I started really identifying the areas that I needed to bring people onto my team. And by the end of 2021, I was in a place where I was really more moving into that agency aspect, where I had people that were bringing value to my clients, that were helping me expand my clientele, expand my services. And now we are a digital agency that can provide just about any service that you need, from SEO to social media management to launches, all of that.
Wow, that is so awesome. And I think what's so neat about this, Amber, is that you started this right in the middle of this crazy thing that was going on in our world, right? It's
Yes.
just a really crazy time. But you know what's so neat about that? I know so many people that launched really great businesses during that time. During a time when we were all like, what are we doing? Where are we going? What are we supposed to be doing? And so many people that I know launched really great businesses during that time and are thriving now. So I think it's incredible.
Well, especially for those that were entering the online space, I think it was the first time culturally that we realized that the boundaries had been lifted. The barriers had been lifted. We were no longer bound by our geographical location. We were no longer bound by our brick and mortars. The boundaries were off, because during that time, we suddenly, as a culture, as a nation, had to get really creative with our shopping, with our dining, with all of the things, right? And suddenly there was a whole new option for people who are going into business. It was no longer, I'm going to hire someone who's just down the street, but it's now, I'm going to hire someone who might be halfway across the world. And so it opened it up a little bit, and while it was a really scary time, it was a lot of shift and change for people. I think it also it kind of expanded the frontier for folks.
Yeah. And it's so interesting that you say that because I had that conversation. I was talking to my husband, I think it was last week, and my GI doctor, which I'm having to be in touch with right now, they offer in-person appointments, but they also do virtual. And I think the virtual are
Mm-hmm.
so great because I don't have to leave my house to get on a doctor call. But
Right.
it's so, like I was saying, that's one of the best things that came out of this
Mm-hmm.
whole thing we went through was now doctors, some of them are offering those virtual appointments, telehealth appointments, and I
Yes.
like them because nobody wants to
Also,
wait in the
yes.
go.
Also,
Yeah.
curbside pickup for
Yes.
meals, right? Sometimes you
Yes.
just don't want to go to the restaurant and you're like, curbside pickup, yes, please.
Yes. Well, we do our groceries like that. It's so funny. Somebody
Yes.
was talking about stepping into the store. I think somebody was talking about she was telling me about going into Walmart. You know how Walmart sometimes they'll check your packages when you're walking out. Well, I haven't been in a
Mm-hmm.
Walmart in like ages. We do buy things from there, but we do the curbside. We just have
Mm-hmm.
them. I don't even know when's the last time I've actually stepped foot in a Walmart.
So
So
true.
we do every weekend. We order our groceries online. We have 2 stores that we go to. We go pick them up, and that's how we do our shopping every single
Mm-hmm.
week. So there's some really cool things that kind of came out of that. And I do think you're right when you say that we kind of had to change the landscape of how we were doing business because I remember when it hit, I was kind of in this transition state too. I had just formed my LLC in 2018 and I was still kind of doing a lot of things outside of my house. And then all of a sudden, when that happened, it became a shift of how do I find my clients now? Because I was networking outside to get them and I had to go to this online space of how now am I going to transition my business? And it's so funny, so many things evolved in that space. And now I'm actually working on evolving again because I'm building a program. So now that I can move away from coaching and go more to these masterminds and this online space, with my program. So I think there was a lot of cool things that came out of that. And you're
Yeah.
obviously one of those, your business is one of those cool things that came through that.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm so grateful. It's funny to say I'm grateful for that time, but I do think that it kind of shone a spotlight on a place where I was not super fulfilled, super in a great place mentally for myself, and I was like, okay, I've got to make a change, right? And I could have just sat and waited for it to be over, but instead I thought, no, this is the time to take action. And I'll be honest, there were people in my life that thought I was crazy. I
Right.
remember my dad, the first thing I said to him when I said, this is what I'm thinking I'm going to do, he said, well, can you even make money doing that? I mean, that was the first comment that came out of his mouth. And God love him, he's one of my biggest supporters now. But at the moment, it just felt so foreign and so unfamiliar and scary for the people around me. And so now the great part is that the people that I'm coaching now, there's some social proof, right? So the
Right.
people that I am coaching now to help them start this, we have a couple of years under our belt of people who are doing work from home businesses where they are doing virtual assistants, social media management, digital marketing from their home. And this is a known thing now. And so if you're thinking about doing that, you actually have people who have gone before, myself who's gone before, that this is not a foreign concept. But when I launched into it in 2021, I remember my dad was like, "What? You're going to do what?"
Yeah. I think all of us entrepreneurs have that, in somebody that's in our life that reminds us of brings us back to the reality space again and says, and maybe puts us in this little in a space where maybe we doubt ourselves for a moment and then we realize, no,
Mhm.
we're going to do it anyways. We're just going to do it because
Yep.
that's how we are. And so I think it's great, it puts it in perspective, but I think that's what it is as an entrepreneur. We're just,
Mhm.
we're willing to take those risks and it doesn't always work out. But I do think when you stay persistent and have tenacity I think one of the big things, is really just understanding that there's going to be work. There's going to be fires that
Yep.
you have to put out and things you have to do to set yourself up properly and just assume your job is going to be to figure out how you're going to get around that mess, as an
Absolutely.
entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
So this kind of leads me in because I do want to talk about this because you're doing some great things. I mean, you're coaching, you have this, this VA side, the social, digital market, all these things that you're doing, and you are kind of a new business, really getting the ground running, and you're doing well. I mean, just by listening to you and looking at what you're doing, you're passionate about it, which I think is amazing because I think you have to love what you're doing and be passionate about it. But I know getting started is the hardest part. Like in a business, it's really getting around all the belief systems that we hold. And especially if we come from a corporate space and we're moving into that online or entrepreneur space, whatever that looks like. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that getting
Yeah.
started, what that looks like. Cause I think you're passionate about that and it's fresh on your mind, where you're
Yeah.
at. And I think you can have a lot to offer on this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, maybe I don't know where you want to start with this, but maybe just tell us what your take is on this for somebody kind of in that space right now, maybe
Mhm.
really thinking about wanting to create something or maybe they want to do VA work. I don't know.
Yeah. One of my biggest things is to think beyond where you're at right now. So I did not do this. I'm speaking from a place of inexperience. I did not actually not do this when I first got started. I was just winging it. I was really, really fortunate in my very early days to land my first couple of clients. And I was, I didn't have packages, I didn't have systems, I didn't have structures. I was just diving into the work, right? And what I was really doing was creating a job for myself, creating busy work for myself. I was not really cultivating and creating a business, creating a company. And what I would encourage anyone who's thinking, I really want to dive into the virtual space, I want to start a VA business, a social media management business, whatever that might look like, I would encourage you to already start looking at those structures, the systems that need to be in place to help sustain not just you, but if you were to bring anyone else on. What I found is that as I was continuing to grow, a lot of my systems existed inside of my brain, but they were not anywhere else. And that created a really rough dynamic when I started needing to bring team members on. Suddenly, I needed to get everything, all that information that was packed into my brain out for them to be able to run with. So, I think the biggest thing that I would say is that if someone is sitting there thinking, I just want to get started, I don't really know where I should start, think beyond yourself. Think beyond this moment where it's just you and start documenting the things that are important to you, the values that you have, the systems and the structures that you want to have. Because it may be a year down the road, it may be 5 years down the road, but at some point, if you're building a business, not just a job, if you're building a business, it will be more than just you. And you're going to want to already have those things documented and out of your brain instead of doing what I did, and trying to catch up all at once.
Well, you learn. And you know what's so good about that, Amber? So many things were coming to mind as you were talking about this because it's a lot of the things that I talk about in my program. So they're fresh in my mind right now because these are areas that I'm covering really about, setting your foundation, like your
Mhm.
your systems in place. But beyond that, even in terms of how you set your personal systems, right? Because those personal systems, when you work for somebody, you have kind of a different mindset, right? Like you're really kind of sort of being told what to do. You have a time you have to be at work. You sort of have these like systems that are dependent on or really are being dependent. This person's telling you these systems, right? And then when you move to that entrepreneur space, the systems change, right? And so
Mhm.
I think it's so important with what you said in having not only the systems in your business, like get those set up that way when your people do come on, you've got some things in place. We know it's not perfect, right? We know that things have to evolve and all that, but you have
Yes.
something to go with. But also those personal systems really come in too, because I think that so much of what we do in one area of our life really shows up in all the areas and they just
Mhm.
kind of show up differently. And then when you bring people in, they see that, they see what you're doing and how you're doing it. The good news is I think, from listening to you that you're the type of person that's constantly evolving. And so I think that, when you're okay with this idea of that, look, this is a process, right? I'm on this journey and I'm doing the best I can, but I'm willing and I'm okay to evolve as needed. If I recognize
Mhm.
something's not working, I'm going to fix it and I'm going to be okay with that process of fixing it.
Yeah.
I think it's never too late to get that.
No, and I'm actually in the process of hiring a new OBM onto my team, and I was doing interviews this week, and one of the applicants was saying, hey, I'm more than willing to add, offer this opportunity, or to say, hey, what if we tried this, or what if we did this differently? But is that okay? And I was like, as much as I love my systems and my structures and to do these things, I am also always in a place where if you can come to me and show me how there is a better way of doing it, oh, yes, Jesus, let me know. Like, I need to know that stuff because I don't ever want to be in that place where I'm sitting there going, no, I know everything, because I think that is actually the first step to the demise of your business, right? Of your company. Because if you really believe that you have nothing left to learn, then what is the point? And so yes, I'm continually evolving, I'm continually learning, and I love the fact that my team brings me new insight and new ideas on the regular basis because I need that. I actually rely on that.
Yeah, no, that's good, Amber. And I agree with you. You want to be in a place where people are bringing you ideas. Doesn't mean you have to adopt every single idea, but
Absolutely.
right, they're bringing you ideas, and if there's nothing like attractive about a leader of a company or the owner just being like, no, you have an idea, I don't want to hear that. Like, no, I don't want to hear that. Like, that's not a growing company, right? It's not moving in the
Yep.
right direction if you're shutting your people down and saying, I don't want to hear what you have to say. And I'm like you. If you have something that works and you make my life less complicated, come talk to me. Just come over
Yes,
here.
I need you. Please tell me.
Right now, as I'm building out this program, and like, this is such the hardest part for me, because it's not that I'm stupid and can't build it. It needs to be built by me because it's my work. It's like 23
Mhm.
years worth of content. I need to do it. But it is the most draining part of what I'm doing right now, because like, I'm a salesperson, I'm a closer, I'm the forward facing person, not the person building in the back. Right. And so I keep joking to everybody. They're like, how's your program coming? Oh my gosh, it's going to be the death of me. Like, I'm just like, let me get to the end of the building phase of this program. Right. Like, if there was some
Right.
magic wand, I could just go bing and have it all
Mm.
done. I would be so happy. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, if you can bring me something that's going to make my business better, make my life easier, and we're doing it with integrity, we're doing it right, then let's talk. I mean, we're going to
Yeah,
only be better together.
absolutely.
So, how big is your team right now? Then you've got you're hiring another person. So, what does your team look like?
I am. I have 5 people on my team right now. I
Good for
the
you.
OBM transition was not one that I was anticipating. I absolutely love my previous OBM, but she decided to enter back into the corporate workspace, which I'm super excited for this next adventure for her. But that was a little bit of an unexpected hiccup, I guess you could say.
Sure.
But it's really interesting. When she first met, she she messaged me and said, "Can we talk?" And I'm telling you, as soon as I heard that from her, I was like, "Oh no,
You
what's
knew.
happening?" I knew it. But then once we talked, and she just felt like this was the right answer for her next step, and I said, "Then here's what I know. I have the confidence that whatever is needed for my next right step is already it's already there, it's coming."
Mhm.
And I really believe it has. She helped me with the process of hiring. I've now extended an offer to a new OBM. Super excited about what she'll pick up and continue on what we've already been doing, but also what she's bringing new to the table. And that's really what every single person that I've introduced to our team has been, not just the skill set that they bring, but the perspective that they bring has been so invaluable. And so, the difference, our agency, I don't hire people to just take over and manage client accounts. As opposed to right now, every single person on our team touches every single account in one way or another. Maybe it's graphic design, maybe it's strategy, maybe it's reach and SEO, whatever it might be. Every single team member touches every single account. So there is a very collaborative approach amongst our team. So we're all working for the same client together, as opposed to that's your client, this is my client, that kind of mindset.
No, I like it. And I think that's great. Everybody has their hands, so everybody knows what's going on. There's
Yep.
none of this one person knows, this person doesn't know. Everybody knows what's going on. It's more of I feel like a team
Yep.
thing. You know what I mean? And I think this is good, even speaking to somebody who is in those beginning stages, trying to get these systems set in place and understanding that, how you operate as a team, even, and making sure that you set those conditions up. Like you were talking about, systems. That's another system. I feel like setting that up from the beginning and saying, this is how we work, everybody pitches in, everybody has their hands on this so that it's not one person knows and then the other five don't know what's going on with this client.
Right. Well, and it's made it easier for things like, so for instance, if last summer was the first summer that I took a vacation at time away where I completely unplugged. And it's because I had the team in place that was completely supporting our client load and there were no hiccups. It was the team just stepped right in. They seamlessly took over and I was able to unplug. I didn't even take my computer with me, which, is for any entrepreneur, that's a little bit
Right.
intimidating, but I
Yep.
was like, I have to leave it at home or I'm going to be tempted to get on. And so that is a testament to the value of creating a team environment where you're all working together as opposed to still feeling very singular. And I am a big advocate for that because I do think that there is a sense of loneliness and alienation that happens in entrepreneurship. And when I started to grow a team, I didn't want to just do that for my clients. Yes, my clients needed the expertise that was coming in from my team members, but I also needed this camaraderie, this sense of collaboration. I realized that while I love building my own business, I don't want to be alone every day in and day out. And so that was a huge piece of it, of like inviting people in and there being a sense of collaboration and a sense of working together that was happening on a daily basis.
That's awesome. I love it, Amber. It's great. No, I think there's so many great things here. So I want to ask you like one final question. I think this is all good. Lots of great knowledge nuggets in there for our people that, if somebody's starting out, what would be, I guess, you've said so many great pieces of advice, but let's just go back to when we talked about like what for somebody starting out, because I know you're passionate about this being a new entrepreneur. Let's say somebody decides today, they're going to be like, tomorrow, I'm going to start a business. What's one thing we want to tell them, one step that they can take today? Just any entrepreneur that you feel like was maybe instrumental for you.
Mm. Okay. So be resolute, but stay flexible.
I love it.
I think that when you enter into this space, you have to be so confident, so resolved to this is the path for me. But if you are so resolved that you forget to stay flexible, you're going to break because lack of flexibility ends up in breakage. And so be resolute, but stay flexible in the process. And so
I love it.
that is the one thing that I didn't know I was doing.
Yeah.
But I ended up doing, and I can look back and say, oh man, if I wasn't willing to pivot in that moment or change in that moment or evolve in that moment, my business would have been done.
I wrote that down. If you saw me, I was writing that. I'm like, that is so good. That might be the title of your episode. I don't know. I love it.
That's fine. That's good.
I absolutely love it. Be resolute, but stay flexible in the process. That is so good. You just thought of that like that. You did good.
Well, it's funny because earlier one of the questions you had sent me that you said, if you had to sum yourself up in one word, and I actually thought of the word evolving. And you earlier in this segment, you said that you were like, well, it sounds like you've really been evolving. And I was like, yes, that is
speaking your language.
You were right there with me. And that is the definition of it, is you have to always be evolving, for yourself, for your clients, for your sanity, all of it. You have to constantly be evolving.
I would agree with you 100% on that. And thank you for sharing that, because I do think that is so true. If you're too rigid in this environment, like the best way I can sum that up is we always talk about, things are nonlinear. I say that on my other show all the time, Behind the Dreamers. I'm always talking about how our lives are nonlinear, and entrepreneurship is no different. If you think about the weather is nonlinear. I mean, we can kind of predict, but we can't predict everything. And the weather, it changes, right?
Yep.
Everything in life is like this. No matter how much you try to control, you can't. And people decide when they come into entrepreneurship, they say, well, I'm going to try to control all these pieces. And yes, you can do certain things to set things up right, but we're dealing with complex problems every single day, and we have to be flexible enough to solve complex problems. If you're too rigid, you're not going to be able to do it.
Well, and in some ways, not to get on the soapbox here, but that's why I do believe that women, mothers in particular, are like uniquely equipped to be entrepreneurs
Mm,
because as a mother, as someone who has raised children, you have to set boundaries and set parameters without being so rigid that they can't grow and evolve themselves. And
it's
that's a
good.
little bit of what it looks like to grow a business. It's like another
Mm-hmm.
child, and you have to create enough boundaries for it to like stay not crazy, right? But
Right.
also evolve and grow on its own and become what it's going to be. So that's why I'm like, y'all that are moms and entrepreneurs, like, yes, you already have the skill set already inside of you. You don't even know it, but it's already inside of you.
Boom. You just gave me chills. That there it is. There it is. The moment. I always laugh when I do a show. I don't know if you're like this, but I always laugh because there will be like that one moment somebody says to me and I'm like, yes, there it is. That's the moment
I
I
do. I
needed.
have that moment too on my show. Yes.
That's what I needed to hear. That's what all of this has been great, Amber. So if anybody listening to this wants to get in touch with you, maybe they want your
Yeah.
services or maybe they just want to learn more about you and what you're doing, where do we want to send them?
Yeah. So my website, you can actually check out my done for you services, our management side of things, and my coaching side, sociallyinspiredmanagement.com. Check that out. There's a page of tools and resources that are free and available to you. You can also access my podcast through that. So that's where I would send everyone. Just my website,
Okay.
Socially Inspired Management.
All right. We'll make sure too when this goes out, I'll get your website in there so
Yeah,
they
for
can find
sure.
you. I'm sure you're easy to find, but we'll make sure we get it in there. So this was
Yeah.
so much fun. I appreciate you coming on here and sharing all this great just wisdom you've gained in these few years that you've been in business. You're doing great. And it's fun to see other inspiring, I say starter girls. I love to talk about starter girls because we're all creators and achievers
Yep.
and dreamers. We're making it happen. We're doing all the things. And so it's fun to see a fellow female entrepreneur kicking butt in the world and doing something that she's passionate about doing. So thank you
Yeah,
for that.
absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We do want to say to our listeners, go check us out over on iTunes. You can hit the YouTube subscribe button and, take care of yourselves. Be kind to one another. We will see you next time.